The arcade cabinet, the perfect culmination of woodworking craftsmanship, electronic wizardry, and graphic design. These shrines dedicated to the game are my favorite thing probably on the planet. So when we're here at Nostalgic, we're talking about opening up an arcade of our own. I knew I just had to make one for myself. And here it is. So let's talk about it.
Yes, you talked about, an arcade cabinet being a physical shrine to one single game. Picking that game is a big step of the process, so why The Legend of Zelda?
Mainly just, it's classic, all-time classic. It's one people are going to recognize, they're going to see this, and they're going to want to come play it immediately. That's what I'm hoping for. The original Legend of Zelda on NES, it's classic. Everybody loves it. Not much of an arcade-style game. Part of the original Zelda on NES is, exploring and finding stuff out on your own and, taking, 40-plus hours to actually figure out what you're supposed to do. So we went with this ROM hack of the original NES Zelda called Zelda Ancient Dungeon, which it's essentially turns the original Zelda into a roguelike. You're endlessly crawling a randomly generated dungeon. And it's so much more arcadey. It's very much in the vibe of the arcade of I'm going to go do a run and see how far I get on Zelda or if I beat it. And then, if you don't, you go play something else, come back to it. It fits so much more with the arcade, style. So it's that combination of, yes, it's Zelda, but it is a completely its own beast, which I really love about it.
Talk to me, because I know you found this ROM hack. I forget what website. It's just
I think I saw a stream of somebody playing it, and I was like, oh, this is right down my alley. This is perfect. I have to play this. Yeah, the ROM hack is made by a guy named Arn Polly. On his website, he's doing like a beating every NES game type thing now. I'm not familiar with any of the other ROM hacks they may have done, but...
Yeah, it's funny because there's very little information about this guy out there, and pretty much no way to contact him to let him know that we were doing this. So I'm hoping...
If you see this, we love your work. Hope you do more ROM hacks that are arcade style. And if you ever want to modify this some to make it more towards, arcade, suitability, talk to us. We'd love to do it.
Yeah. Like you said, once you knew that we were going to be starting an arcade here, you wanted to have a piece of your own.
Yeah. I've always wanted to just build an arcade like this. I've worked on them for a good number of years of my life, and making something I always wanted to just make. So making this, it was a no-brainer. It's like, I'm finally going to do it.
You talk about making stuff. Is it a creative outlet? Is it more about the game itself, or is it about the experience of actually building it for you?
Both. Where I even start, I've had a lot of creative pursuits in the past, and nothing ever really made sense. And this is the first time that it ever did. Doing this, learning, thanks to my dad, woodworking, and everything involved with that, the woodworking process, and just being in the shop, the whole experience of its own. I was the most excited I've been in a long, long time. On a day off, to be just I get to be in the wood shop today and I get to work on it, and it was great. It's definitely not going to be my last one. The whole project experience, planning it, the art with you, every single bit of everything that went into this project was extremely rewarding, and this definitely is not going to be my last one. I want to do more of these. Along with other creative pursuits that kind of fit in with this. It's been an amazing experience, and I'm excited for the future of what this brings.
With the graphic design, give me a rundown of your initial vision and your direction you gave me.
Essentially what it all boiled down to is we came up with the idea, what if Zelda had actually released in arcades? What would it look like? What would the art look like? So definitely had to go with the classic Nintendo cab style. we have a Donkey Kong that's going to be in our arcade when we open up. So it was a no-brainer to just trace the sides out and get everything as close as I possibly could with my skill level to getting it to that classic Nintendo arcade shape. And then same for the art, which you painstakingly went through, analyzed Popeye, Donkey Kong, Mario Bros, how their particular art style with how they did stuff, and then took all this classic Zelda art and transformed it to that, which I think is amazing.
Adam had a very clear vision in mind, and I was given this direction of what if, but from there it was up to me to kind of figure out what that meant. So I went through and looked at a bunch of old Nintendo cabinets from the 80s, especially Donkey Kong Jr., and Donkey Kong 3 were the main ones we took inspiration from, as you can tell. So we have this classic Nintendo-style cab, and the main pieces that I had to put together, at least the first three initially, were the marquee, the bezel, and the control panel. From there were a few other additional things, like the side art was always going to be just the NES box, because all of Nintendo's classic cabinets at the time just had one big label on the side. You know, Donkey Kong running with Pauline and Jumpman behind him. So I really just wanted to give it that stark classic box art look, the gold cartridge, and it was that silver shield with the Legend of Zelda. So early on, we decided to go with an actual metallic gold finish to the outside of the cabinet. And we bounced back and forth between spray painting, gold leafing, but we eventually landed on just vinyl application because it was cheaper, it looked really good, and it is durable and it will last. We also bounced between what gold colors to pick.
Yeah, it's not one for one. I initially wanted to get it, exact to the cartridge. So that way the whole cabinet is the same gold coloring of that NES cartridge.
It's funny because it was a decision you totally made based on just something I did, because once I finished all of this art, I just mocked it all up together in a Photoshop document so we could see it all next to each other, and I had sort of the outline of the cabinet, and I just found a PNG of some automotive gold vinyl wrap, and I just dropped it behind there just to give it some color, and so you could see it next to gold. And Adam liked it so much that that's what we went with.
The art popped so much on that I'm like, okay, we gotta go with that.
Yeah, and I really like that because this T-molding that you got is a really darn close match to the cartridge. It looks great. The actual design process, I mean, it took probably a couple months, and I really just did all this stuff on my break. And for the most part, it was about scouring the internet and finding original vintage art for The Legend of Zelda, because the artistic language of Legend of Zelda has changed so much over the years. So the main things I really went back to were all of the classic manual illustrations inside the NES manual, as well as the Japanese board game. It was a massive, massive inspiration. The art is gorgeous. Originally we wanted it for the marquee, but this image of Link in front of the dungeon was so perfect for an ancient dungeon. So the art for Link and the Octorok from the board game actually ended up being the control panel. It just fits so well. I'd already made it to test the two different marquee designs, and we were like, oh, that works perfect there. Most of the other stuff around here, I think I essentially took the original, there's tons of scans of this artwork out there, but none of it looked like arcade art. So back in the 80s, everything was screen printed. There was no way we were going to be able to screen print all these pieces on the shoestring budget, essentially, we were operating on. So we ended up going with this website, Game On Graphics, that does fantastic.
Shout out to Scott.
Yeah, shout out to Scott. He was a godsend throughout this whole process.
Me a lot of headache.
Yeah.
Because he would email me like, hey, are you sure this dimension's right? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
And stuff that we had missed. So he
legitimately good guy.
Yeah.
And we decided to, they do beautiful vinyl printing and actual printing, like the full plexi marquee and everything. So I started the process of painstakingly vectoring out all of the board game art that couldn't be blown up to the 300 DPI that it needs to be printed at to look good. So if I had just copied and pasted all that art, I would have done no work really, and it would have looked like doo-doo. So I spent a long time vectoring all this out in Illustrator and Photoshop and making this emulate the look of being screen printed. And honestly, the final result is astounding, because today is the first day I saw this in its entirety complete. I'd seen the control panel in person, and everything else was just, pictures from your crappy phone camera. And
Me morning in the wood shop playing it.
Yeah.
Stuff, videos.
And I walked in, and it's like playing this thing. I mean, it really is sitting and worshiping at the shrine of Legend of Zelda.
Yes.
And I'm so happy that I was able to have a small part in this. And it was such an interesting experience on my behalf, because I just did some art, and I put together a zip file and sent everything to Adam, and I was involved on sort of the graphic design side of things about where we were going with this, what the idea was, and on the technical side of things, okay, we need dimensions for this to be printed. We need this at 300 DPI. We need these specific measurements. And other than that, I mean, I feel like I played a very small part in this, as Adam was doing this every day off. Whenever, like he said, he was so excited to get to the woodshop and put this thing together, and I got to sort of sit back and watch it culminate to this moment today, where we're gonna have it out in our store for people to play. That's awesome. That's amazing.
I love it.
So thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me be a part of this.
Really, this couldn't have been done without you. Yeah.
You could have found someone on Fiverr to vector out some art and put together something, but I'm glad
that you shared the passion for wanting to see this thing come alive as much as I did, because you can't get that on Fiverr or anything. I wouldn't have had it done by anybody else.
This is a buddy thing, And I mean, I love Legend of Zelda, but not nearly to the extent you do. I've played through Link to the Past. Yeah. I've loved Link to the Past. That was the first Super Nintendo game I played, and I played it all the way through without playing any other Super Nintendo games. But I've never gone through and played all the other games, and I have a very loose understanding of the nonsense timeline. But through this project, it helped me gain an appreciation for Legend, more so than I had before. I already knew it was a masterpiece. Through this whole process, designing this and watching it come alive, I went back and revisited Link to the Past, and I went with you to a Bit Brigade show where they speed ran Legend of Zelda. Well, they played metal covers of the music, and that was, of course, the Castlevania one was the spiritual experience for me, especially because it was in an old church. But seeing that made me go, this is something I am passionate to be a part of, and I'm so happy I played a part in this.
Yeah, so if you stop by and see us, be sure to come play this. I want to see people. I'm really hoping that I see people come through that door and just their face light up when they see this, and that they immediately want to play it. If you do play it, let me know. I'd love to hear what you think. And just special thanks, Joe, for doing the art.
My name is Joey.
Joey, Little Kangaroo here is the...
Thank you.
Troy's Restorations on YouTube has a video, mostly just his restoration videos, but then he has a video where he was building a cabinet for a friend, and I must have watched that video 1,000 times, analyzing every single bit that he did for that video, how he made his cabinets. Yeah, thanks to Scott at Game On Graphics for saving me all that trouble and giving us some beautiful prints here. My dad, I used his shop, and the best part about this was getting to work on it with him, and him show me stuff with woodworking and getting to learn all that. And don't listen to him, he did a lot more than he'll let off. he you know, I kept saying we did a good job making this. He's like, oh, I didn't do nothing. But no, he did, and he was a huge help. And yeah, I guess special last thanks to Nostalgic, because Nostalgic's going to be this place home for the foreseeable future. Thanks again, everybody.
If you've watched any of our other arcade vlog videos, you know that we're building an arcade here, and that will be this cabinet's home, and you'll be able to come and play this in an arcade with a bunch of other games. So we're super excited. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed or would love to see more content like this, more custom cabinets, like, subscribe, comment, let us know what your favorite part of this is. We're gonna spend some hours playing Ancient Dungeon here. So we'll see you next time.
Have a good one, everybody.